it's Mary. I'm finally here. I finally found some time to film because I was meant to film way earlier. This is my May and June wrap up because I didn't read a lot in May. I think I finished only one book in May. And then in June I read, not many in June either, because I was very busy. I've been to Scotland to visit my sister. She lives there currently, and I've also bought some books in Scotland, and I'm planning to film. I don't know if I'm doing that back to back to this one, but soon I will film another book haul, which is going to be my Edinburgh book haul, because I've been to Scotland, but I've actually been only in Edinburgh, where my sister lives. But we did go to many bookshops, so it was so nice. And I'm planning to film that too. I'm sorry if you can hear cicadas. They're so loud, and the window is open because it's very hot, as you probably know, since it's hot basically everywhere right now. Let's talk about the books. So the first one, maybe I still am unsure whether to give this book a dedicated review video, but I don't know. I don't know if I'm able to, because whenever I read a book that I give 5 stars to, for some reason I feel like I don't have the right words to describe it. I struggle to describe and review a book that I loved so much, probably because it gets a bit personal. I don't know if it's just the dynamic in which you end up reading and liking a book because there's so many things that just click, but for you as a person, as opposed to for the book as it is. I don't know though, this is just, rambles. But it is Middlemarch by George Eliot, and I gave this book 5 stars. It's probably one of my favorite books of all time. Of course, one of my favorites from this year. And I went a bit overboard with the tabs and just the notes. Yes, I don't know what happened. I did want to tab it. Like when I started it, I was like, this is a classic, and I feel like classics to me are very sort of easy to annotate because they do feel a little bit like school, but not really. I don't know, I feel like when I'm reading a fiction like a contemporary, I don't feel the urge to annotate so much. And with this, I just did. I didn't even know what I was doing because I never used different colors for different things, and I didn't do it afterwards. Like, this is the only book that I marked this way. But I guess because there are a lot of characters, I started to tab. I started to pay attention to certain characters, and certain characters would have, well, basically only the protagonist had her own tab, color tab. And then I was like, these are for the stuff that I like, and then other tabs are for stuff that I need to look up, and others political stuff. So yeah, basically that's what I did with this book. And I buddy read this with my sister, and she gave this book 5 stars too, so it was a great buddy read too, even though she was faster than me, because it did take me a little bit to start getting into it. Really, it's not that I was not enjoying it, but it took me a couple of months to read this book. But when I started this one, probably up until page like 200, I wasn't that into it, which doesn't mean that I wasn't enjoying myself. I was enjoying myself, but then I didn't have like the impulse to just pick it up and see what was happening. And I've read many discussions about this book where it says that people are not sure if it's because they get used to the writing style, or if the author is writing differently throughout the book. But I don't think she is. I think she's very consistent with her writing style and her writing technique, which is very, I don't want to say flowery, but it's full of nuance. It is very rich, the writing style. And at first, it might seem a bit daunting when you first pick it up, especially if you're not used to classics or you haven't been reading a classic for a long time. So I don't want to paint this book as a breeze to read, even though it sort of was, because once I got used to the writing style, and it didn't take long, and I just got into the groove of this town as well, because I didn't even say anything about this book, but this book is set in the early 800s, although it was written in the late 800s, and it talks about this provincial town and the surroundings of this town and the people that live there, and basically all their whereabouts. And this is very simple as a plot line, or as the dynamics are presented. It's just simple, but then at the same time is complicated, because you have a lot of characters, and they all have their own heft. They're all sort of, even though the stress is on certain characters, maybe a bit more, especially the character of Dorothea, which we start with her, and the first chapters are more about her and her family. But then as you go on, you find that there are many other characters that basically are as important as her. But at the same time, you sort of, at least that's how I felt. I felt like she was the main protagonist of the novel anyway. And that's why from the beginning I had this feeling that I had to tab all her parts, or yes, it's just parts that were concerning her and her life. And I did the right thing doing that, because she ended up being very important and very relevant, and as a character she also grows. I mean, all the characters have a great arc where they sort of, maybe they change, maybe they don't really change, but they grow and they adapt to the narration and the events that happen, and it's very sort of, it could be like gossipy as a book, because it does talk about relationships more than anything, but it's also political and also ironic, and it has everything, and it's so well balanced. I just feel like this book was absolutely perfect, and I can't believe I've never checked her out before. I want to read every single book that she wrote, obviously, and I don't want to compare really, but if I had to compare her to Jane Austen, I would choose her anytime. It has that sort of lightness that Jane Austen has, the romance aspect of it, but it's more than that. It's more nuanced, it's more ironic as well. It's more clever probably, and I feel bad because I don't want to bash on Jane Austen, and I've only read Pride and Prejudice, which I loved. I really loved Pride and Prejudice, and I do have to read more by Jane Austen, but I don't know. She is my Jane Austen. She was great. I cried, I laughed, I was on the edge of my seat, even though this is not a thriller, it's not, but I was so invested past the first sort of part of the book. I just couldn't put this book down, and it was so also unpredictable, because I don't know, with Jane Austen you sort of know and you feel where things are going. I don't know why I'm comparing the two, I'm sorry, but as opposed to writers of that period, she adds that component of uncertainty, and of, is this gonna have a happy ending? I don't know. Is this going to be bittersweet? It could be, and I love that about books. I love that you don't know where things are going, and you don't necessarily have to be surprised, like at the end with a big reveal or a big twist, but at the same time you don't have you still have the doubt that keeps you interested, and I found this book very real as well, very true to life, and intimate for the period, in terms of what people were thinking, and how that affected everybody else. I love this book. I definitely recommend this book to everybody, and my advice would be don't give up in the beginning if it sounds like it's a lot, because it's going to make sense, it's going to flow, you're going to get into it. At least that's how I felt. So yes, I loved it. 5 out of 5 stars. Then another one of my books about parenting and stuff, and this was a quick, very effective little book that it was, yes, it really helped me in a moment of struggle with my kid. And this is called No Bad Kids, Toddler Discipline Without Shame by Janet Lansbury. And I don't, as I said, I will talk extensively about books about parenting and children, but I don't feel like 90% of the people that watch probably this video care about this kind of stuff. The only thing I will say is that I really needed something because I was struggling to connect with my kid, and it happens all the time, even though I read many books, and we all know that it's not books that make a relationship work, especially with kids, but with anybody really. But it just, they help, because they help you shift your perspective, and they help you see things differently, or just remind you of things that you probably know but you maybe forgot about them. Or since the relationship changes all the time and time passes, you sort of need, I guess I need a reminder and a refresher. And this was exactly that. And it helped me immensely. She speaks my language, so it's obviously like positive parenting, and which is the line of parenting that I'm following basically. It's not really a line, it's just being respectful to your kid most of all, which is how basically you should parent anyway. Everybody has their own style, and there's no right way to parent, although something to keep in mind is everybody needs respect, especially if they're kids and they depend on you and they love you unconditionally. You should treat them right, okay? So yeah, this one was very good and I really liked it. What else? I picked up a short story collection that I rarely pick up, and this is by F. Scott Fitzgerald, who is, I mean, I love The Great Gatsby, but I'm starting to think that that's the only great thing that he did. Poor Scotty, I don't mean to bash on him. He really didn't have a great career while he was alive. It's so sad to think about that he didn't know anything about the success that The Great Gatsby ended up to be. But yes, my feeling is that that's the only thing that really deserved the praise that it has gotten in the end, because this one was just fine. Yes, I give this 3 stars. How I rate short story collections is that I rate every single short story, and then I sort of see the general rating. So some of them were 3, one of them was 4 stars, and it was quite good, which, if you were interested, is Family in the Wind. And then the other ones were basically all 3 stars. Some of them were 2 stars. One of them was 1 star. I found this very sort of, I don't know, of its time, slightly sort of racist sometimes, and just the misogyny as well is sort of intertwined. I don't know. I mean, I can't understand the context and everything, but it just didn't enjoy myself that much reading. And I still feel like he couldn't accomplish, especially in short stories, because as I said, with short stories, I'm very picky and very demanding of short stories. They need to be basically perfect to work because they're just too short for me. I love big things. I don't know if you sort of figure it out from this one, but this is what I like. So short things, they can work, but they have to be like extremely good, and these were not. So sorry, Scotty. I will be rereading The Great Gatsby as usual every August, because I love The Great Gatsby, and I will always love that one. But that's it for me and Scott. I think our relationship just ends there. And then I read a very good memoir, which is I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings by Maya Angelou. And I heard many people talk about this, but I'm surprised that I didn't hear anybody talk about the sequel, because this is just the first part of a bigger sort of biography, not really a memoir. It's a biography of the author that she, an autobiography. And this book finishes that she's like 16. I don't remember. She's very young. So I was like, yes, there's still like a lot to unpack there. And I'm just waiting to, because I've been buying too many books these past months. So yes, I'm on a strict book buying ban. If not for books that are like for my sort of own personal growth or for the delivery. Like I have some books lined up for my, you know, for the birth, for the birth. Because I'm planning to have a home birth, and so I am sort of finding books about that, and also about siblings and stuff. Those are the only books I allow myself, because I sort of, they are like work to me, you know? Even though I don't work. I mean, that's my job, isn't it? Right now. I'm making a human here, so. But yes, so I didn't buy the second one here, but I am interested in reading it. This is, as I said, an autobiography about the author. This was written in '69, so it's quite old, and her childhood was in the 20s and 30s, I think, in the US. And as a black woman, as a black kid, she experienced a lot of difficult situations, and I really loved her writing style as well. Aside from how interested I was in her own story, she writes beautifully. To be left alone on the tightrope of youthful unknowing is to experience the excruciating beauty of full freedom and the threat of eternal indecision. Yes, I really liked it, and I feel like I don't want to like make too much time pass, because I don't want to forget things, and I know that I'm prone to forgetting, but it was very good. I think I gave it 4 stars. And then I read a manga series, which was Orange. So I have volume 1 and volume 2. Here they are. And I wasn't enjoying myself in the first one. I thought it was cute because this is about a group of teenagers, and the protagonist, basically the main, yes, she's the protagonist. I don't remember her name though. Naho. Okay, I will call her Nao, although that's not her full name. But Nao gets a letter from her future self explaining how she sort of needs to do things differently because one of her friends is going to die of suicide. He's going to die, and maybe she can change things if she does things differently, because the future self, her future self, has regrets, you know, about this whole situation. She feels sort of responsible for his death. So this is it, and you navigate through her life as she gets these letters. I think it's more than one letter, and with her group of friends, and how she's trying to prevent this other friend to commit suicide, basically. And it's yeah, and then you have the second one as well, which, you know, I'm just going to talk about this one, but I'm talking about both of them. As I said, I was enjoying and I got the camera. As I said, I was enjoying myself with this one, but I was sort of waiting to see where it was going to go as a story. And I didn't really like ultimately the message of it, and I don't want to, I'm not gonna spoil anything, but the importance and the responsibility that it places on people for someone else's happiness is too much. I don't like that message, the message that that we could have prevented. I mean, of course, it's important to be there for people and to do your best and try to help somebody who's struggling, but ultimately it's not your responsibility and it's not your fault if somebody else loses their life and takes away their own life. Ultimately, that's it. That's the main problem that I had with this book. So, and also it ended very abruptly. Like it wasn't not really halfway through, but this is where it ends, the second volume, and I was surprised because, you know, it's the same size basically as the first one, but this is another, like an entirely different story that I didn't even read because I wasn't interested in it. I sort of read the premise and I was like, not for me, and it doesn't have anything to do with the story of Orange. And yes, I didn't really like how the author wrapped things up in the end. So I think this one got 3 stars from me, and the first one was a 4-star read. It was nice, it was entertaining, of course. They were very quick to read, even though they're pretty chunky. But yes, I was not okay with the message that the book, I think, was trying to convey. So yeah, that's it for my May and June wrap up. I'll see you very soon for my Edinburgh book haul. And sorry also, there is a very like bare bookshelf behind me because I transferred like most of my books in the main bookshelf that I put up in the living room that I'm probably going to show you at some point. But I still have to sort of figure out how to place all the books. I don't know, it stresses me out. So yeah, that's why it's half bare. But yes, talk to me in the comments down below, and I'll talk to you in my next video. Bye!